The human psyche, according to the visionary Swiss psychologist Carl Jung, is an immense and mysterious territory that remains largely shrouded in darkness despite the slow evolution of human consciousness over untold ages. Jung, who lived from 1875 to 1961, dedicated his life to mapping this vast inner landscape, which he referred to as the psyche, a term that originally meant soul or spirit, but eventually came to represent the total personality, including the full spectrum of thoughts, behaviors, feelings, and emotions. Jung's revolutionary framework suggests that the mind is not a blank slate at birth, but a complex, multi-layered mechanism divided into three distinct yet constantly interacting realms: consciousness, the personal unconscious, and the collective unconscious. These layers are not isolated compartments. Instead, they exist in a state of dynamic, compensatory interplay, where the unconscious often rises up to balance the limitations or biases of our conscious awareness, creating a constant potential for personal transformation and psychological growth. At the very surface of this vast psychic ocean lies the realm of consciousness, the field of awareness most familiar to our daily lives and the part of ourselves we present to the world. At the heart of this field sits the ego, which Jung described as the subject of all personal facts and the center of our empirical personality. The ego functions as a powerful and vigilant gatekeeper, standing at the threshold of our experiences and deciding which perceptions are allowed into our awareness and which are ignored, repressed, or cast aside to protect our sense of identity. This selection process is vital for navigating reality, but it also creates the second layer of the psyche, known as the personal unconscious. This realm acts as a reservoir for everything the ego has deemed too distressing, insignificant, or redundant. These subliminal contents do not simply vanish. They cluster together to form what Jung called complexes, autonomous subpersonalities that possess their own psychic energy and can exert a sudden, overwhelming influence on our moods and reactions, often making us feel as though we are no longer masters of our own house. While Jung began his career as a protege of Sigmund Freud, he eventually broke away in a famous intellectual schism because he felt Freud's view of the unconscious was too narrow and pessimistic. While Freud saw the unconscious primarily as a basement for repressed childhood traumas and forbidden desires, Jung discovered something far more ancient, majestic, and universal. Through his rigorous analysis of patients' dreams and his exhaustive study of global mythology, alchemy, and religion, Jung noticed uncanny, identical patterns in the symbols and stories produced by people from entirely different cultures who had no contact with one another. This led to his most profound discovery, the collective unconscious. This is a deeper stratum of the mind that is not individually acquired through life experience, but is instead inherited through our biological and prehistoric lineage. It is a museum of organs for the mind, containing the distilled wisdom and typical experiences of our ancestors, from the dawn of humanity to the present day. Within this collective unconscious reside the archetypes, primordial psychic structures that act as invisible blueprints for human experience. These are not specific images themselves, but rather inherited forms without content that predispose us to perceive, feel, and act in universal ways. Whether it is the archetype of the hero, the great mother, the wise old man, or the experience of birth and death, these structures manifest themselves through recurring symbols and myths in every culture across history. Jung believed that the psyche, much like the human body, is a product of millions of years of evolution, carrying within it the instincts of archaic man. He argued that the failure of the modern world to acknowledge these deep-seated forces leads to a fragmented and neurotic existence, as the contemporary ego becomes dangerously disconnected from its ancient, instinctive roots, leaving the individual feeling hollow, anxious, or directionless. The ultimate goal of human life, in Jung's view, is the arduous and lifelong process of individuation. This is the journey of confronting the hidden contents of both the personal and collective unconscious and consciously integrating them into a single, cohesive whole. It is a path to self-knowledge that requires us to face our shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves we deny, and our persona, the masks we wear for society. By bridging the gap between the small island of the ego and the vast, dark regions of the psyche, we move toward what Jung called wholeness. This process is not about reaching perfection, but about achieving a state of completeness where the conscious and unconscious move on parallel lines. For Jung, the psyche is a self-regulating system that strives for balance. Only by engaging in this brave dialogue with the depths of the soul can an individual become a truly separate, indivisible unity, a state of being that represents the highest realization of the self.